Hi, Richard. Welcome to another episode of my BCC, in which I get to have a conversation with members of our community. I'm Cantor Juval, and I'm so glad to have Richard Seltzer join me today. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Now,
Very happy to have you in my home in Palm Springs.
Yeah, it's very cozy, very cozy. I didn't know you had a guitar. How nice. Tell me, Richard, what do we need to know about you?
What we need to know about me is that before I joined BCC 35 years ago, I was pretty much of an unlikely candidate to join BCC because my worldview and my interests were such that being involved in a Jewish organization was not in the cards at the time. It was a strange sequence of events that I was supposed to have taken some of the last coursework in my doctoral program at USC, and the professor passed away before the class started. And I went to see the books for the course, and the name of one of her books sounded very familiar. It was about a study of the Israel Levin Senior Citizen Center on Venice Beach. And it was studied anthropologically. The woman was studying her own people for a change. And there was something familiar about her name, Barbara Meyerhoff, and the book. And I had been to BCC a couple of times. I probably didn't realize that I needed Judaism because when several of my aunts and uncles died, I used to go over there to say Kaddish. But that's all I did. I didn't join. I was not used to gatherings with large numbers of gay people, women carrying the Torah. Not that I was opposed to it. I was very much in favor of equality, but I hadn't seen that before. So it was an adaptation. But when this happened, I went back and asked this very friendly ritual committee chair named Fred Schuldina what her connection was to the temple. And he explained that she had studied BCC as part of one of her other projects, and that our rabbi, Janet Martyr, knew her. And I didn't even know they had a rabbi. She was part-time then. And I met her and we started talking about this. And Janet kind of picked up where I would have gone had I met Barbara Meyerhoff. And we went through what the book was teaching me, and that I learned that I was talking to somebody who was explaining Judaism to me in a way that was very understandable and very connected to my life. She encouraged me to become a member, and I did. So, and then I slowly met and made friends, and I was still relatively new in LA, and I had moved here on short notice. And over time, I met lots and lots of other people of similar backgrounds who were LGBTQ and all the other things that we now add. And that's my family in California.
So what are some of the highlights in your time with BCC throughout those years?
One of the highlights was being present when BCC returned its Holocaust Torah to the, I believe, daughter of its rightful owner in Czechoslovakia before it was put away in a museum of an obliterated people, or whatever the Nazis wanted to call it. And we had this massive event which was instigated by BCC because of our member Sylvia Sukop's very hard work. Another highlight would be the first time I marched in a gay pride parade was with BCC. That was, everybody has to go through that period. I mean, I was actually dancing on the back of a float down Santa Monica Boulevard. And it took me a little while to get used to it, although I wasn't opposed to it, the idea that gender played no role in what people could or could not do. Little by little, I really got into that.
Wow.
A lot of female clergy, which was something new for me, and I loved it. Calling clergy by their first names. Where I come from, rabbis had names like Schwartz, Goldberg, Birnbaum, Teplitz, Singer. They didn't even call them Mr. or Rabbi. They just had last names. But I now live in a world where rabbis have names like Janet, and Lisa, and Heather, Jillian. I love it.
Wonderful. So we live in quite interesting, unprecedented times of pandemic and civil unrest and a lot of uncertainty. Are there any rituals or connections that provide you with comfort during this time, and would you share about what they are?
Yes, BCC has provided me comfort because actually having moved to Palm Springs a year and a half ago, my connection got strained physically, and that was not comfortable for me because I was used to knowing that Friday night I can just go and they're there. or all the other occasions. So I was streaming and staying in touch, and it's all much easier. But this unfortunate catastrophe that the whole world is living with has created opportunities that have a lot of benefits. And I have spent more time staying in contact with all of my dear people at BCC through this whole drama, whatever you want to call it, than I have since I moved. Good things can come from bad things. We can walk away from or leave our bad experience taking some good things that we may have had to do during that experience to adapt. One other thing that I forgot to mention was that in 1991, with a slight bit of support from a rabbi's discretionary fund, I spent the summer in something called the Rabbinic Aid Program, which the Reform Movement ran at their leadership camp in New York, in the Catskill Mountains, which was kind of a joke in my family because I refused to go away to summer camp when I was a kid. I hated it. I was the gay boy who did not like sports and was uncomfortable in those environments. And so I went there and learned a whole bunch of things about what rabbis do. There is no such title as rabbinic aid. So I have a certificate, but it holds no weight of any kind whatsoever. And it was an interesting experience to really dig into what Reform Judaism is all about. And one of BCC's members was there with me, who was not very good at talking as an out gay person. So I kept having to carry that burden for the group, unfortunately.
Wow. I didn't know that. And I guess that explains also your willingness to step up to be a lay service leader ever so often.
Yeah, I had some instruction on how you put together a sermon. I remember the word pericope, that interested me. That's when you hook the closing back to the beginning again, you tie it all up. And I'm kind of a linguistic chameleon, so if I like the way people talk or speak, I'll start sounding like them very quickly. So that's what's been happening, and I learned a lot I've learned rabbi language. Rabbi Mark Blumenthal, who actually did the Bikur Cholim presentation at the Rabbinic Aid Program, not very long after became our rabbi. And I had known him first, and I was particularly impressed with his Bikur Cholim skills. That was an interesting experience.
So we're almost at the end of our little conversation. Is there anything else that you would like to share?
Well, anybody who's ever heard me speak at BCC will have probably heard that you have to remember that anybody who you meet at BCC is statistically likely to be LGBTQ and or Jewish. And neither of those is a certainty. And that's all you know about them before they tell you who they are and tell you about their lives. And that makes it an endless list of surprises. I met all the way from a Jew by choice who used to be a Mormon Latter-day Saint, all the way to very, very Orthodox young men and women.
Well, thank you so much for sharing of yourself and of your experiences with BCC. And I very much look forward to being community with you in one shared space. And until then, I look forward to seeing you often and frequent during our services and our study sessions and all of our various programmings online here at BCC.
I'll be there. It's easy to go. The commute is very short. I just walk into my office.
All right. Be well, Richard. I'll see you soon.